Welcome to this month's episode of The Buzz. On today's episode, we're taking an in-depth look at an exciting program at Warner University. If working outside with plants and animals sounds intriguing to you, then stick around to learn more about agricultural studies. Hello and welcome to The Buzz. I'm joined in studio by Justin Sharpless, an agricultural studies instructor at Warner University. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for coming. So I want to get to know you a little bit before we dive into what you guys do at Warner University with your agricultural department. So how long have you been with Warner University's agricultural program?
I started there in January of 2015.
When did you strike the interest in agriculture? How did that happen for you?
Well, that started my sophomore year of high school. I took my first agriculture class in high school. I remember telling my friend, and when I was a freshman, that I would never do that. I don't want to go down there and hang out with the ag people. But then I took a class my sophomore year because he convinced me to, and it really changed my career path, my career direction. My ag teacher, Milton Bryan, was a huge impact on my life. In fact, the reason why I taught agriculture was in the public school system was because of him. And so that one instance, they can say one event can change your life, and definitely me joining that ag class did that for me.
What was the thing that appealed to you the most? What really stuck you there? You went in with no intention of really wanting to be there necessarily, and then something stuck you for the rest of your life. So what was the appeal?
Well, for me, it was the FFA organization, leadership development. I've always been a kind of person, if I do something, I'm always going to put 110% effort behind it. And I'm a people person, and I like being around people, so the interaction. But then also, I developed a love for cattle, and I own a few head of cattle now. It was just something that, I enjoyed dealing with, like genetics and things like that too. So.
Now you said that your teacher was kind of like the big influence there. The one teacher really made you want to do it for your life. Mm-hmm. It's great now that you're teaching the program and you're kind of hopefully being that impact on other students. You're giving back there. So tell me about your program. What is it that you guys do at Warner University with your agricultural program?
Okay, our agricultural studies program is a general ag degree. Our students come in there. It's very hands-on. It started from industry, from our ag industry here in Central Florida. In fact, Commissioner Adam Putnam was a big part of the start of it. He told us that we needed this because in Florida, there's not too many options to get an agricultural degree. You can go to the University of Florida, where they have, it's our land grant institution. I'm an alum of the University of Florida, go Gators. But it's somewhat difficult to get in there, as well as it's very specialized. A student, if they don't know exactly what they're going to want to do, they have to get into career tracks, where ours is a general degree. Students have opportunities to explore and go different. In fact, they have to get training in multiple areas of agriculture. So it was really out of a need to develop this program, as well as we're the furthest south for an ag program at a university in Florida. There's a lot of untapped potential in Polk and further south.
Are you guys the only program for agriculture in Polk County, or are there other ones at other schools that?
Florida Southern has a horticulture degree and a citrus degree, but if anyone's wanting to get any kind of animal experience, then we would be the only one.
It seems that you guys take some sort of a different approach than some other colleges with an agricultural program. So what is different about your program versus the other ones in the Florida area?
Okay, well, I told you the start of it was really born out of industry, and they're the ones that wanted to. They're the ones that wanted this program. They wanted to hire graduates. They needed more graduates in ag programs. In fact, the research shows that over 22,000 positions are left unfilled by graduates of ag degrees nationwide. Compared to how many jobs are available, so there's a need for it. But how we're different is because of that industry input. We're very much a hands-on degree, practical. We require students to have over 500 hours of in-the-field experience by the time they graduate, and it's a diverse degree.
Is that something that you guys help provide to the students, or is that something that they go out to seek on their own? How does that work, getting that hands-on experience?
Well, being a private institution and relying on donors, we have developed relationships with a lot of these people and a lot of partners in the ag industry. So, so we provide some of that through some of those. We've developed a network of people that are willing to host, but at the same time, if a student comes in and they're like, "This is where I want to be," you know, I've developed a relationship with this producer, then of course we allow flexibility there. But we do have some available internships and things like that. And industry has actually approached us about a lot of this stuff, so that's been exciting there. Yeah. And sometimes we'll have so many internship options that we can't even fill them all, which is amazing. So the fact the industry really has backed this program has been tremendous.
Absolutely. What is your enrollment like right now? Are the numbers high, or are you guys still trying to recruit all the time?
Well, it's been growing. You know, when I started there in the spring of 2015, we had right around 30. We've doubled that since spring of 2015. Nice. We're over 60 now. So so it is growing. You know, with any other program, it starts. You know, you're not going to expect to have a whole bunch at the beginning, but we've done a lot of public relations, getting our message out there, recruiting, going to high school ag programs, going to conventions and things like that, and really, you know, we've been proactively recruiting students. We work hard for them.
And that's the most important thing, is to see the growth. Like you said, it's not out of the gate necessarily going to blow up, but if you see growth every year, I imagine that's really the goal, right?
Yes, sir.
Now with agriculture, I don't know a lot about it. Okay. The first thing that comes to mind is planting things for food and cattle. So what are some of the options as far as, if you get a degree in agriculture, what kind of careers can you pursue? What are the options there?
I don't think we have enough time for me to list all of the potential careers, but okay, so there's traditional production careers like you're thinking, you know, cattle ranchers, someone that's working in citrus groves, producing the food. There's a lot of allied industries as well. Animal health, animal pharmaceuticals, there's chemical reps, so people that are selling fertilizers and that kind of thing. There's ag teachers. You know, we have agriculture in grades 6 through 12 in the state of Florida. Nice. So I mean, as young as middle school students are taking agriculture classes. So our curriculum, it definitely prepares a student to take that agriculture test in order to become an ag teacher. So so that's an option. There's food scientists, there's plant breeders. You know, we are facing a big problem right now in Central Florida in citrus greening. I'm sure you've heard of that. That's been all over the news. It's definitely hurt our orange crop, but our citrus crop. But you know, if someone were to go into plant breeding, I mean, we have a class that's called Principles of Plant Breeding and Genetics. So we want to potentially develop the next person to cure that. You know, I mean, and there's fiber production too. You know, your clothes are made out of cotton. So really, this is a degree, and it being a general degree, it prepares you for a variety of different careers.
Absolutely, sounds like it. Being that we're going to have these graduates coming out of your program in Polk County, what can they really bring to this area? Or is that a loaded question, I imagine?
It is. I can tell you that agriculture is the lifeblood of Central Florida. It's the second largest industry for our state, the first being tourism. You know, when people think of Florida, they think of beaches, Walt Disney World, but if you take, you know, you go 20 miles inland into the heart, we call it the heartland of Florida, man, if we didn't have agriculture, we'd have a lot of people out of work. You know, whenever September 11th hit, you know, it was a tragedy for our country. And it was a tragedy for Florida too, even though it didn't necessarily, you know, the terrorists did not strike in Florida. Right. But our tourism industry tanked, if you remember, and agriculture really sustained us during that time. Because I mean, obviously, if people aren't coming to visit, then tourism industry gets hit. You know, when things happen like, you know, the BP oil spill out in the Gulf of Mexico, where our beaches aren't really being, you know, visited as much because of the pollution. Agriculture still is there. We're still producing food because everyone has to eat. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's if you don't eat, you die. So it's especially for our area, it's huge. You know, it really is huge.
And we talked about the citrus groves. Obviously, that's the first thing that comes to mind for Florida. I'm curious, from your perspective, what kind of plants and animals are we really known for here in Polk County? What is the type of agriculture that students will probably find themselves involved with if they stay in this area?
Well, if you've been around any time in Polk County, you've heard people call it Imperial Polk County. And a little history lesson, the reason why we were called Imperial Polk County is because at one time we were the kings of the citrus industry. More citrus produced here than anywhere else in the world.
Right.
Of course, greening things all throughout, urban development and sprawl, taking away some of that ag land has impacted it. But overall, citrus is still very important. Cattle production, beef cattle production is huge. We have specialty crops like blueberries and peaches are also greenhouses and nurseries. Everyone buys a house. They want to make it look nice. They put plants around, landscaping, things like that. Those are all directly, if you want to be able to landscape properly and tell someone how to, decorate their home with the plants, then you probably need to know about plant growth, I would think.
Absolutely.
So those are some big industries. And then further south of Polk County, we have around Lake Okeechobee, you have a lot of vegetable production and sugarcane as well.
Okay.
So.
Cool. That's some stuff that I didn't realize was around here. So.
Oh yeah, the sugar industry is huge in Florida, and especially when you get closer to the lake, Lake Okeechobee. There's a lot of what we call organic soils or muck. It's like really like wet black soil. It's really rich, and that's where a lot of vegetable production happens. So.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Well, you're definitely very knowledgeable on the subject, and I can tell that you're passionate about it, which is awesome for the students that are attending your program, for sure.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming out to give your perspective on it, and after the break, we're going to talk to Dr. John Cruz, one of your other professors, and get some more insight on the program, so I'm excited to hear some more about it. But thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And I got the chance to visit Warner University and attend a plant production class taught by Gina Babb. Let's take a look. We'll be back after the break.
I want you to group yourselves into 6 students. There are 18 students in this class, and it's just too big, if you only are like 1 or 2 groups, so at least 3 groups per student. And we will be having your planning at Hart Institute. That would be hopefully next week and Thursday next week, but Tuesday I want you to bring all your implements, garden hose, what else, shovels, trowels, boots, everything that you can bring so that everybody will be prepared. And so if we are going to conduct an experiment, there is a step, or there are steps, several steps to follow. One of those is to identify the problem. What is the problem right now in our agriculture? In citrus, again, it's greening, right? That's the main problem, citrus greening. And how would you go over with solving that problem? What are the steps that you need to do?
Proper spray treatments. Proper spray treatments, keep silage.
Proper spray treatments, that's one of those. First of all, in conducting an experiment, after you identify the problem, you make an educated guess. What is an educated guess? A hypothesis, okay? So in your research, you will do a hypothesis. What could be the hypothesis in your greening experiment? Just an example.
That the disease is caused by bacteria.
A bacteria, so that's one of the hypotheses. So assuming that we don't know yet the cause, okay, of greening, so we will have several hypotheses, okay? So we will have, for example, citrus greening is caused by a bacteria. That's one. Another one, citrus greening is caused by a virus, okay? And then the other one is citrus greening is caused by an insect called psyllid. I always wanted to be a teacher. I think I was in high school when I had a good relationship with my teacher. She was a single teacher, and she was the one that asked me to help her, planning lessons and correcting or checking papers, quizzes. Yeah, I remember that, and she kind of mentored me too when I was in that age. And I said, you know what, I really wanted to be a teacher. Yeah. So when I was doing my PhD, I was a teaching assistant for about 5 semesters, and I told my supervisor, his name is Dr. Ian Ray, and I told him that I want to teach in a university. Yeah. Even if it's a small university, as long as I can be, be able to impart my knowledge, the knowledge that I learned, that I gained from school, to students. Everybody eats, all of us depend on agriculture. Our food, the vegetables that we eat, the fruits that we eat, even the meat that we eat, the dairy that we milk, the butter, they all come from agriculture. Because of the improved varieties that we have, we are able to feed now more people than before, because we could plant or develop a crop that have more yield, higher yielding varieties, more pest resistance. And also our area now is diminishing because of all of this urbanization. We have now lands converted to real estates and also being converted to several other uses aside from agriculture. And so land is dwindling, and so we need to produce more crops or improve the technologies that we can use. So you have to have a controlled experiment wherein you introduce those organisms. So you have one experiment here where you have the trees infected with a bacteria, the Candidatus bacteria. Another experiment that's infected with a virus, okay, a plant virus. And then another experiment that's infected with a psyllid, okay? And then you have to have a control. What is a control?
So you just don't do nothing to.
Yeah, so untreated, so you don't have to have a treatment in your control. I was raised in the Philippines. We are actually 7 children, siblings, and I'm the youngest of that. My father died when I was 4 years old, and when my dad died, my mom, she was not working that time. It was so hard for us to get by. Yeah, I remember the first time that I have a pair of shoes, like a pair of shoes, was when I was in high school, second year high school, believe it or not. Yeah, it was just, really difficult for us that time because Dad was the one working, and then when he died, of course, there's no more support. Our parents really trained us to be faithful. Yeah, lots of prayers. So I tell my students that if I, without anything, my family without anything, can go to school, finish college, have my master's, have my PhD, and I came from a developing country, why can't you? Okay.
Yeah, the vegetable draft 2016.
Welcome back to the show. We're back with Dr. John Cruz, the newest agricultural studies faculty member at Warner University. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Cruz. How are you doing?
Thank you for having us today.
No problem, anytime. So I was talking to you right before we started rolling about your experience with Warner, and you're not brand new. So tell me how you came to be at Warner and when that was.
Well, the university asked me spring of 2015 to teach one class because they needed someone with an animal science background to teach the class. Been a veterinarian for over 40 years, raised on a ranch since basically birth. Gave me that credentials to do that. Started with one at semester break. They asked me to teach 2. At the end of the semester, then they said 3, and so here we are today.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your background living on a ranch, because that's really unique to me. I've never met someone who lived on a ranch, and it sounds like a really unique experience. What was that like?
Yeah. Well, my family, both my mother and my dad inherited small groves, and then the year I was born, they purchased a large piece of ground in the south part of Polk County, and we turned it into pastures, improved pastures, and at one time had 300 head of cattle. We are much reduced from that today. In fact, I'm the only part of my family that still have cattle on our place, and I have 50 head plus. So,
what is the most difficult part from your experience, since you've been doing it your whole life, about having your own ranch and maintaining that and really helping that thrive in the area?
It's understanding the markets. It's understanding the pressures that you have. Every year is different. Even prices for cattle when you take them to market is different. There's been, of course, just like in the grocery store, you see prices going up. The components that we use to treat our cattle, vaccinate, to keep them healthy, fertilizer, feed, all of those things have continually gone up. And at least in the beef cattle side of things, we don't have subsidies. And so when there is a reduction in the price, then you struggle to try to keep those books balanced so that you can continue doing that. But it's when it's in your blood, when it's in your heart and soul, then you make it work.
Absolutely. It's worth it, right?
Right.
So you said that your background was in animal sciences. That's kind of why they brought you on at Warner University. So is that primarily the type of courses that you teach, or what does your course load entail?
Yes, I teach all animal science classes as a veterinarian for over 40 years. And then coming from that ranch background and the animal science background, just uniquely qualified me for doing that. And what we do as a veterinarian, what we do at Warner is communication. And it's communicating and teaching people how to care for their animals, the animal husbandry part, teach production issues. Yes, animal science classes are the ones that I teach at Warner.
And what are some of the other, I know there's a broad spectrum, I'm sure, but some of the other courses that students at Warner University will find themselves taking to kind of really delve into the agricultural studies?
Well, just like I do the animal side of the courses, Dr. Babb does the plant side with her PhD in that part of the world, plant or an animal world, and so she does that. So we have the production, we have diseases, nutrition, plant nutrition, and there are a variety of things like ag policy that Justin teaches, helping them, the students, understand the industries that they'll be working for. There are a number of electives that are even in business, because again, as we talked about earlier, if you can't keep this successful, then it's hard to make a living.
Absolutely. And to that same note with the business side of it, you kind of touched on this already with the prices going up and that sort of thing, but being that you've been involved with agriculture your whole life, how have you seen changes in over the years, either for better or for worse, in the agricultural business world?
Well, I grew up with a dad that really wanted to improve things, but we had neighbors who they just did things the old ways, and we tried to incorporate in our operation things that came through the universities and in improved ways. We didn't do artificial insemination to improve the genetics, but we always bought the best bull that we could possibly buy. So we've seen those production. We've seen, even in the last 15 years, we've seen our per animal output, per unit output, per cow, and that calf that then goes to market, go from under 400 pounds per animal average to now it's considered normal for it to be 550 pounds. So we've had a decline in the number of cattle in the United States, but yet we're feeding more people because that production per animal has skyrocketed because of those advances.
Wow. And it seems like everything is ever changing in every aspect of business and every career and all of that. And how is it trying to keep up with like technological advances and that sort of thing? Because I imagine there are some within the agricultural world.
Oh yes, I mean, things change every year, and even as simple as how we identify cattle, because in a production system you have to identify those cattle. I remember the day where everything was fire branded, and then we went to tags that were just a number thing, and now we have the electronic IDs that you can scan as that animal comes through there and be able to keep information about the health of that animal and any treatments that animal gets. So it's not to say that every rancher does that, but it is a big part of what folks that are doing more improved strategies for their ranches.
Now you see tons of students come in and out that all probably have different backgrounds in agriculture. Some may have grown up with it like you, some of them may have just gotten into it in high school. What are some misconceptions that either students or maybe people who are not in the program and just onlookers, some misconceptions people have about agriculture that you've seen?
Well, many don't understand the science base to what we're trying to teach in our programs, and that can be on both sides of the equation. That can be, we do have students that live in the city that have really not had anything, but they just have an interest in what we do and in agriculture. So they will enroll in the program. We have guys that grew up like myself, and some of those they want a degree, but they and they know mom and dad said they want a degree, but they don't realize the challenges because we stretch our students. They take one of my courses. They take Justin's or Dr. Babb's. We're going to stretch them, and we're going to give them a lot of information. But that's critical for them to survive well in the industries and the advancement that's going on in our industries.
For sure. And what is your favorite thing that your favorite thing about being a part of the department at Warner University? Because as Justin was saying in the first half, you guys do differ some from other programs in what you provide. So what's the most appealing and your favorite thing?
It's seeing those students light up. Those guys and girls that grew up on a ranch or some kind of an agricultural operation, and seeing them, the light go on, that now I know why we did that. Now I know a better way to do things, and then developing that mentoring kind of role with those students and passing on this information that I've been blessed by God, I believe, to the many places that I've been, and give that back to them, and developing that relationship. That's the great part of what we do.
And obviously you're very passionate about it. Why would you, or what would you say to a student who maybe is considering agriculture, or maybe they're on the fence, they don't really know what they want to do? What would you say to kind of steer them and tell them why agriculture would be a good path to follow?
It has to be a passion for you. It just can't be a casual interest. I tell folks, when you get into this profession, you're going to do a lot of it. It's a hard work, and so if you like outdoors kind of thing, not all of our positions are outdoors, but many of them are, and you get to see the things that you put your heart and soul in flourish. Yes, sometimes things don't go like you like, but you get to see that, and I would say if you want that kind of thing where you can be integrated completely into that industry, agriculture is one of those good ones.
That's awesome. Well, I thank you so much for being here, Dr. Cruz, and talking about your program. It sounds like you guys are giving the students a great opportunity here.
Thank you for having us.
Anytime. That's all the time that we have for today, but if you'd like more information about the Agricultural Studies program at Warner University, please visit www.warner.edu/agricultural-studies. You can catch this episode on Mondays and Wednesdays at 1 and 7 p.m. on PGTV, or find us on YouTube on the Polk Government channel. Thanks for joining me on this episode of The Buzz. I'll see you next time.